So now, sir, how did you start your interest in mountains?
Well, I was born in a village 10 miles from Amritsar in the Punjab plains. But I do remember as a youngster that in December, cold winter months, early morning, we could see the snow peaks of Kangra. And I think that is the rampart behind Dharamsala, what MMK, the writer, calls Dur Khema. So from the Amritsar village, you could see the snow peaks because the plains of Punjab go straight into the high mountains of Kangra and beyond. But beyond that, of course, we had no link, no knowledge of where it was, no thought of going. Then in 47, 1947, my father suddenly put me and my brother in a school in Mussoorie, UPL, uh, St. George's College. It was an inter-science called college. And I was 6 years there. We were there with the hills, but somehow, barring the low hills here and there, but no real deep interest. And the school also, unfortunately, at that time didn't have this focus of a trekking club to take boys far in. So nothing. And then I joined the Indian Administrative Service in 1958. And we trained in those days in Delhi by the Jamna in a historic Metcalfe house from the 19th century British period, well known to the mutiny. And we were taken to see India. It's so vast a subcontinent, and most of us haven't seen it, even now, or all of it. I keep trying. And I, from this side, was taken in a group to what we call Bharat Darshan, Eastern India. We went on one southern trip, one eastern trip. And we went all over Assam, Digboi even, Sibsagar, far north, Digboi. Nobody's been there. We were taken there to see the little British oil wells. And we went to Darjeeling. So first time we had that tremendous look at Kanchenjunga. And we were woken up and we went at 4 o'clock to Tiger Hill and we got a glimpse of Everest and we stayed a couple of days. We went to the Himalayan Mountaineering Institute. Tenzing and Hillary had climbed in 53 and I'm there in 58 summer. And Tenzing was there in his full bloom of glory and youth. He was a young man then and the most handsome, the most beautifully dressed man, always wearing those perfect Swiss stockings, walking boots, his French berry, which I think Lambert must have given him, his great friend from the Swiss, and beautiful, superb mountain pullovers from Europe. I mean, there wasn't a more handsome man. As I said yesterday at a book launch or something I've done, that frankly, all George Clooney's of Hollywood and all our Bollywood fellows don't match up to Tenzing. His smile, he had God given teeth and the crinkle in his eyes. And more than that, you see your smile, all of us smile, but his eyes conveyed the smile to me. They had God's goodness. So I can never forget Tenzing. And he was our director of training, took us. Gombu was a young kid, his nephew, and he was my instructor, rival.
You remember which was his course number or exact date?
Number I don't know, but it was 1960 March, March course. So 15th March or whenever we went. And there too, how I got there later. I'm now talking of the course. We met Tenzing and we came back. We finished our training. I got posted to the Punjab. But that Tenzing touch and the mountaineering touch never left me. And I immediately joined the Himalayan Club a year later in 1960, life member. 1960 I joined. And I started reading all sorts of literature. And then my first posting as an IAS in Punjab, there was no Haryana then, no Himachal, they were all part of Punjab. So 80 miles from Delhi, in the pure desert then, even now it is all sand with a bit of water and development, roads. I was posted as STM because the chief minister believed in sending young men to tough postings, either up in the mountains, Lahaul, Spiti, or down here in the desert. So that was the attitude then. Today, all IAS want to stay in Delhi and Chandigarh and Washington and all that, and looking for all the soft things and what they can get out of it. At that time, the attitude of government and all of us was different. We also had a kind of patriotic feeling, I can tell you, because we thought we are here, early days of independence, 10 years only, and we are here to kind of build India, save India. So that feeling, frankly, even we had. People won't realize today. And perhaps some of us have carried that all through life. For that reason, it got embedded. And then I was in the desert there and no bijli, no pani, but I was quite happy going around on camels or whatever, bachelor, young man. And then I thought of Darjeeling and I wrote to the chief secretary. Just a direct letter, which you can't do. It's totally against discipline. They should charge sheet me. But he was the unconventional E.N. Mangatrai, ICS from Government College Lahore, very well known later life and dead now. And so for a month and a half, nothing happened, and I thought I'm getting a charge sheet. I never told my deputy commissioner, who was an old man, very vehmy aadmi tha, huh? Very unsure of himself. Uh, and suddenly I got a telegram from the chief secretary direct to SDM. Reference your letter, private letter, if willing, report Darjeeling 15th March, or whatever the date was. And I thought the deputy commissioner will not let me go. I knew the man. Or shakki aadmi tha, hesitant, frightened all the time. That kind of a personality out of his past. So I just quietly wrote him a little note. My subdivision was 15 miles away, 20 miles away. Sent it as I have written in the book by slow camel to him. And I took off by the night shuttle to Delhi, from Delhi to Siliguri to Darjeeling, and away to Sikkim before he even knew that my SDM has run away.
Oh,
And he was very annoyed, looking for me, couldn't do anything. And I went to Tenzing. And I was the first IS, I am probably still the last, I think, in Darjeeling or any mountaineering. Because I had written to the chief secretary, I said, listen, 58, the Chinese first attacked Indian border police, CRPF, at hot springs in Ladakh. You know that area. And they killed some and took away the others. And then it was already happening. They were pushing us back. And I, as a youngster, wrote to Mangatrai. I said, listen, you got this border. That time it was Punjab. And you got to look after it. And unhappy old men sent there will not serve you well. They'll spread unhappiness. You want young people to go there who will be wanting to go there. So why don't I train? You should train more people in mountaineering in the Punjab IAS. Imagine I said this to him. That's why he picked me. So I did my training. I was the first IAS because while Nehru made it, frankly, HMI Darjeeling, to encourage the youth of India to adventure. But he didn't mean the youth only in the armed forces for military training. He meant all our university people, like the English do, who go on to become captains of industry or captains of government or great politicians. In other words, leaders of men India needed. That was his idea, which in a way, I'm sorry, it never took off at that time. Because quickly Indians made it Army, Navy, Air Force. And all our famous people, Kohli and Bulkumar and Ahluwalia was in my course. You see, I can link that. They were going. So I was the first IS man to ask and go. I said, I want to go. And so I was there. The rest of them were all captains of the army and this, that, and that. And we went, and I have never forgotten that experience. Because IMF training also is not, or HMI training, what it should be in my eyes. Because at that time, the course was really what Nandu Jayal and others had made it. From Darjeeling, from our dormitory, with our rucksacks and all our loads, we walked downhill from Darjeeling to the river, Rangeet River. I remember even today, you can imagine. I've forgotten nothing. Teesta, that side, Rangeet, which falls into it. Crossed it in that lovely, cool water. For the first time, I'm seeing these crystal waters and pleasant, going in blue shorts, planter shorts, which I bought in Calcutta. Huh? All young fellows. I was 22 only. Because I got into the IS 21, earliest somehow. And so the trek from Darjeeling to Chauri Khiang, 10 days. At that time, the forest was still there. and all the dark forest of Sikkim, which all botanists in the world know, Bishop Hedberg. Uh, every day walking so many things, then camping by a river, then early morning 5 o'clock tea and parathas and this thing given to us, and then walking sometimes with this friend, sometimes with that one, sometimes with a Sherpa, sometimes with Alu as we call him. And therefore you got to know of India and Indian people. They were from all over, and armed forces, anything. That was the best part of it. Birds, orchids, everything was there then. So it was great fun to walk in that cool forest without that sharp sunlight. And I remember at one place near Zongri trying to climb a ridge, which you might remember. And Gombu and me and Alu Alia took a competition. Let's see who goes up this straight ridge first. And we literally ran up it. Of course, he would beat me or anyone. But I mean, we were pretty good ourselves. We were young. And then on top of the Zongri ridge, I've never forgotten, we climbed on to the top of the ridge. And there we got stuck in a rhododendron forest, which is like a million snakes. So you couldn't walk through it. We couldn't get out of it. And then came down and went down towards Shorikyang and that dip from where you see the whole Chorikyang Valley. So 6 weeks there was an experience I can never forget. It's actually my richest experience in life. I can live off it till the last day. Because as I also say, the best photographs are not in your album. No, it's each man in his mind. And the album disappears when I disappear, which is fair enough. Nobody else is going to look after it anyway. Huh? And we spent that time. And of course, March, April is disturbed weather. So we had lots of snowfalls. And Tenzing would tell us to get up at night and go and shake the tent to get the heavy snow off. We wouldn't. And he, like a mother hen, I mean, the fellow was so famous, but he was so good, so professional, and so dedicated. Today they are not. Even the teachers in these institutes, I like to think, I know something. And he would come by at 1 o'clock and shake all our tamboos and get the snow off us. And we had a great experience. We went up towards Frey Peak, up to the higher
And
11.
what about the training? Mountaineering training you undertook?
You see, they took us to snow levels. They showed us all that, step cutting, everything. They gave us pretty good training. And at that time, I think they were very focused. All the famous Sherpas were there. Ang Temba, all of them, Namgyal, I can remember many of them. They were all there. Tashi, see, I can recall all 6 of them. Gombu, and Tenzing was there. And Brigadier Gyan Singh was principal. And he was also, you see, a good commander. Subsequently, not all institutes have managed to retain standards. Sometimes we know and worry. But in this case, they were great at that time. They were also in their early years of Josh. You know, Gyan Singh, I think, came after Nandu, you know, and all the instructors. So it was great training, great camaraderie, and fun. And we walked back all the way again. Now they take them by Matador, I believe. Now that's no good. Yoksam, we last village out and first village in. We spent the night and we had dancing, singing, and all sorts of Kangra songs, Pahadi songs, and drinking that bamboo shang with those reed pipes, tumba. And that was great training. So I came back with that. And I never lost the touch of the mountains then. And I stuck to it. And it is then that a year later, when after 4 years service, we got senior scale, we could become deputy secretaries. I again went to Mangatrai. I was under secretary labor. And I went and saw him, as I've written in the book.
But this does not say firing you more in mountaineering or you were busy with administration.
No, I'll tell you why.
Everest.
No, I didn't go. I could have gone with Alu and all. I could have gone to high mountain, but I'll tell you why. That calculation I made very early in life. What I did, I went to Mangatrai, the chief secretary, when my senior scale, as we call it in the ISO, had come. I said, sir, I don't want to be deputy secretary labor here in Chandigarh. You need somebody up there in Lahaul Spiti, make me DC there. He won't make me DC Ludhiana at 4 years service or Jalandhar.
But this was your conscious decision.
Yes, I asked and went.
Climbing high mountains, serving.
No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because look at the career of all the army fellows who have been great mountaineers. You see, mountaineering is such a thing that if you want to go serious into it, then every year, at least once a year, maybe twice a year, autumn and summer, you must take off 6 to 8 weeks and go off on a mountain. Then you are no good to your regiment. Like Kohli has never been a great naval man. Nothing. I say with great respect. Aluwalia, captain, nothing. Bulkumar barely made it to brigadier. Because the army is professional, they said these fellows don't know anything about tactics. They have not done any courses. They have not. I know the armed forces. So I thought, yeah, I worked it out. I said now either I can join these guys and I'll certainly go to Everest or whichever one. And I had desires also, and I was as good as any of them. But then if I do that, I can't do a serious career. So I thought, no, that's not something I want to do. I will not leave the link and the affection with the mountains, but I don't want to break records and climb this or that peak. After all, you yourself, let me put it to you. I mean, your own career, even though you could do all this, and even now you go twice a year, but you've never been attracted by the idea that I'll touch the highest and break a record, the Indian thing, then get a Padam Shri and this and that. No, you've gone the Mallory and the British route of simple love for the mountains and wanting to be in that. And most of your life, if I may say so, has been in 20,000 up or down. But that's the greatest climbing, as all intelligent people tell you. So I deliberately put that away. I did that, by the way.
That's what I'm going to make it conscious.
Yes.
I don't want to climb high mountain.
No,
To go with my
because I didn't want to drop the serious work of the IAS, which was my main career. I did the same, by the way, in later life, in 65 onwards. In 65, I took the Indian team, 68. 65, I was Deputy Commissioner Ambala. 67, I was Jalandhar. Himachal had become separate. And 68, I took the Indian team to the Mexico Olympics. Huh? I was involved in sports promotion. I was secretary of the Punjab Olympic Association. But after the Olympics, I pulled away there also because I thought to myself, if I now go deep into this, then I spend all my time collecting money. Sometimes questions are raised on that and going here and there with teams. Then again, I cannot be a serious administrator in India, which I want to be. And I pulled away from any management of sports. Otherwise, I would have been up here in the Olympic as president IOA or God knows what, and I would have gone to 10 Olympics like all the others have gone. But then I thought, no, that is simply that much. Keep going to tournaments and tours and also doing things which do not fit with the true code of my administrative service dharma. Collecting money, this, that. Questions are raised about funds, their use. So I pulled away in both. This was conscious decision.
So either mountains or sports, you wanted to remain focused on administration and your career.
And close to them, doing everything in my entire life, which I managed to do for both in various ways.
Do you think you achieved that perfect balance?
I think I did. Look where I am. There is not another man who from SDM has done the full circle through Chief Election Commissioner of India for 6 years. Nobody can do even half of that. Somehow I had the chance and the luck, put it that way. And now a cabinet minister, where else can I go? So I've had the total, but I've used my positions as deputy commissioner, as commissioner, as secretary agriculture, secretary petrochemicals, sports minister to help mountaineering, to help all sports in the last 2 years. What all I've done for sports, wide-ranging improvement of their conditions and doing things. So I'm happy. I'm content that I did the right thing and not get lost in one or the other, either sports management or in trying to climb a high mountain with some teams, because then it takes away all your time. And to be fair to your bosses, the chief secretaries or the generals, they can't take you seriously. And all of the army people who have been in climbing, they had to give up their army careers. They didn't get anywhere. Okay, they may have benefited here, that's something else. And so that's how I came into it. And I went to Lahaul Spiti. Mangatrai said, "Jolly good."
Now we come back to Lahaul Smithy. So that if you can deal in detail.
Yeah.
Your major, the terra firma of the whole experience, staying there and doing something for the people. So could we know in detail?
Yeah.
How did you go there? What work did you do? And what was the experience?
Well, Mangatrai was delighted because he was a very unconventional civil servant. As yesterday they were saying, where do you find such people? I mean, he had no problem in getting direct suggestions or, anything from the youngest, junior most officer in his cadre. He had no problem. He used to encourage us. He was a very strange man. He used to encourage us when I went first to the secretariat as junior most fellow, under secretary, that in the evening we could drop in on him and his wife. And he would have a drink and he would offer you a drink, and all of us wanted a drink, free drink, and we would get that. And then he would sit with me and equal, imagine the chief secretary to this SDM fellow, hot argument on Akali politics, Sikh politics, anything, because I'm a Sikh from Amritsar. I'm a Jat also, peasant also. So I had some thoughts, and he was interested to know what is this fellow thinking of. And so he had that kind of attitude. So he said, yes, off you go. And I went to Lahaul. And that's an experience again which will never leave me. That's why, while I may have spent a year and a half or 2 years there or whatever, and then it separated out, but all my life, after marriage, with children, now with granddaughter, we keep going back to Kelang and all those valleys.
So how was that traveling that and from where did you start?
Well, we first went to Dalhousie, all Punjab, and Cairo. In that perceptive thought that I have to develop this. He was Chief Minister of Punjab, Nehru's great friend. He was 8 years Chief Minister. Finally, when Nehru died, they got rid of him because he sided with Morarji, and Shastri became Prime Minister. And sadly, they made him resign on a technicality. But in those days, these people did. He was actually a very strange combination of a village peasant. He is the father of all these people, Lalu Yadav, and all these rural promoter chief minister who claim to be Aam Aadmi and Gaon Ka Aadmi. Cairo is their grandfather, the elephant. They try to copy. But Cairo had a unique combination. He was a villager from Amritsar, 5 miles from mine. He knew my family, uncles, they were all friends. And I served with him 58 to 64. When finally he resigned, and then he was shot, unfortunately, in a conspiracy at a very young age. And he had that village touch emotionally, which I haven't lost. I model myself from Cairo. My attitude remains Cairo's. I haven't lost my village, though I've hardly been in it for 50 years. I've been out in the world. But I go back. I try to help the school. I try to help this. I try to help rural India, rural Punjab, and all that.
So how did you leave for Kelang now? Travel?
You see, so Cairo had set up a tribes advisory council. I'm talking of management now. That was a committee of tribal people from that area, which was very remote then. Nobody bothered about it. The deputy commissioner of Kangra, 10,000 square miles, was in Dharamsala next to Pathankot. And Tibet border, where is it? So he was not in touch with anything. That was the way it was. Now he set up this district, 5,000 square miles of glaciers and high mountains beyond the Rohtang, 20,000 people only. As I've written, I would have to climb to 16,000 feet to meet 5 of my village families in a village of 5, families, nothing more, or 6. And Cairo set it up. And then to give them backing, he set up a tribes advisory council. People from that area, all his cabinet, important people, finance, this, that, himself presiding, chief secretary, all the finance secretary and PWD. And he would make them meet in Lahaul in those days when he had to walk over the Rohtang. He was asthmatic, go on a horse and take his injections himself for diabetes, But he would say meeting there, and the whole government would go there. And sometimes meet in Dalhousie, as I met him first time. And there, agenda would be put up, and he told the government that decisions are all final here. There's no more cabinet, no more chief secretary. You got an objection, make it here. And he encouraged the young DC and young SDMs to speak up, and he agreed with us. So I attended this meeting. After that, I went to Dharamsala. I stayed with the deputy commissioner in his grand British house, went up to MacLeod Ganj and all, which is all now Tibetan and Dalai Lama. And then we slowly went up the valley, and it is one of the finest valley, Kangana Valley, all the way. And
From where did you walk?
went to I went to Kullu finally, Manali. Then from Manali, I went by jeep, and we had cut a little. The mule track had been improved to a jeep track over the Rohtang, so we could cross the Rohtang in summer, the short summer from June to September, because there were no snow plows, no nothing, and it was this direct route, zigzag up the, above Rala, straight Hathimatha as we called it, and so we went in a jeep, and with my luggage, and in fact there was a family of an executive engineer, so she sat in front and I sat with the bloody tin trunks in the back, the future deputy commissioner and king of Lahaul. And those, every time the slope came, the bloody trunks are going into my kidneys. What do you?
Family or not family?
No, I was not married. I was 26 barely. So I got it after 4 years service. And Mangatra understood my point that he wanted young deputy commissioner. And I went there, and there was some kind of a cut road up to Kelan. So I crossed the Rohtang by a jeep with great difficulty, and on the other side. But then life at that time was totally different in Lahore. Once you had even the first snowfall in sometimes early December or even end of November, pass closed. Then for a while you could walk over it, local people, but no nothing. And then once the snow came, it just kept piling up. And the pass wouldn't open till June, really, in any sense. Because we just had a jeepable track. There's nothing to clear it. And which means we spent a long winter inside. No helicopter, no nothing.
You went to stay there.
I was the DC Lahore.
You had to stay there.
Absolutely. That is the Punjab School of Administration. I see all over India that they are appointed, but they stay at headquarters. Punjab never did that. Frontier administration attitude of Punjab from British 19th century after they fought the Sikhs and took the Punjab. And so that was the whole idea, that a DC will stay there all the time and an STM will stay in Kaza. And I've described Kaza, then he lived in a mud hovel. And when I went on tour, I stayed with him. And we crawled like this into his mud hovel, dark inside. And he just had on the ground some mattress and a huge quilt. And we both, deputy commissioner and SDM, crawled under it. And the SDM, by the way, in my time was this Kapil Sibbal's eldest brother, who was my class fellow, but who was 2 years my junior. So he was my subordinate, but he had been my class fellow. And we both would get under the same quilt. And to wash ourselves, we had a little corner with a hole in the wall. It was primitive living like the Spitials, which you can't. You've been so much to Spiti, you can't imagine that. And to spend that long, harsh winter there, I mean, chaps either took to drink, too much drink, or they got, a little soft in the head, and you had to really be in control. And one of the things I believe I did, I was a young deputy commissioner in Lahaul, Kelan. Kelan was like Paris compared to Spiti in our minds. Well, and I had an SDM there, Goswami, he retired as Chief Secretary of Haryana. I had Diwan, who retired as Haryana DGP and all that, as an SP. And we were all three young fellows. And the long winter, I remember for one thing, that you see the tendency every evening in the snow, we would take a little walk on the little road next to the village. And then go back, it's early, the valley would become dark by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Sun would go behind the ridge. And then what are you going to do? So the tendency to have a drink or two. One day sitting in my house, one day in the SCM. And then at that young age, I was a bachelor, I had the same thoughts as them. I said, no, this can't go on. I am the father of the district. You see, the British code I had learned from reading a lot of British books, John Lawrence and others. They said, I am the father of the district. That's my age, not 26, as I might be. And I told them, I said, listen, no more drinking from today. Now we'll set a target. Next drink is 26th January. And you're not drinking and I'm not drinking and no news. We held to it. And the only entertainment was Binaka Geetwala, the Quran written on. There was no nothing, no TV, and there was no medical. By the way, if I got appendix, I could die because there was no hospital, there was no any facility, and nothing, and you could not be evacuated out. Remember that.
No helicopters would come.
No, there were no helicopters then, and there was no nothing there. Now they have a little helipad at Sutingri next to Kelang, but for the summer and all. Now in winter also you can clear it and go there, but nothing then. So we really lived that primitive life. And I got very deep into their lives. I also tried to model myself on British administrators. I said, they wrote lots and lots of books. Why can't I attempt one? And so I started, a whole set of notebooks for taking notes.
But now, why this British training to you? You're not based to England.
No.
So how do you?
I am a student of.
Read so much or read so much?
Yes. I am a student of English literature, my master's degree in Punjab University, Ludhiana. And I have a passion for reading. And
How did that develop?
well, first of all, English literature, I read everything Shakespeare. I know Julius Caesar and a few plays by heart, all of Hardy and all of Dickens. I have been a passionate reader even in my boarding school in Missouri. At that age, I read all of Scott and Dickens, and you can imagine.
You are in which school?
St. George's College, Missouri. It's 150 years old, the biggest dramatic building with a huge clock tower like Big Ben in Missouri, below the ridge, in a place called Barlogan. So I had this passion for reading always. And therefore, with literature, with all this background, I went into every kind of. Once I became an IAS, I read every. For example, The Men Who Ruled India, Philip Mason, one of the great civil servants. And he's the man of the Himalayan Club. You know him as Himalayan Club editor. I know him as the man who wrote the history of the ICS. And I read it immediately on joining the service. So I knew what the British had done. John Beams, Memoirs of a Bengal Civilian. He was first in Punjab. Then he got difficult. They kicked him out to Bihar. But even there, he wrote the grammar of all those languages. And he wrote memoirs. All of them did great work in language, in finding the Buddha, in archaeology. You know that. So I had that model in my mind from my vast reading. So I kept notes. If there was a funeral, somebody died in the long winter in the village, old lamas, I would run with this Shering Dorje, who's in my book on the cover and in everything. And I would go to the house, sit through the whole ceremony, sit through the funeral, then record what all he would go on explaining to me, because he is himself a lama trained in Tibet, and come back and in Lahaul. So he's a very learned man. So I would go on recording deaths, births, ceremonies, the Tibetan New Year Losar in February. So I would go and attend every festival. Then I would come and write, paras and pages of notes. So I kept all those notes. And I thought I must do something, folklore. So I collected anything and everything. I wrote up on all my tours. So I tried to be a little bit of a British administrator, because there's no Indian model for this. Sadly, even now they don't do it. An odd one writes a book, but our chaps are not curious of the world around them or wanting to do this. Now, I can say they've gone too much into money making and wanting to get rich from day one, because that has become the ethos. When I joined the IAS, the first thing in Delhi we went to is, even now, at this age, every time I pass the Regal building, Regal Cinema, next to it is the Khadar Bandar, set up then 47. And I look at it and I say, yes, I came here in 1958 to buy my Khadar Band Gala. We all had to have Khadar Band Gala. That is the dress we wore at every occasion, not ties and suits and silken kurtas and all. So that is the whole ethos. So out of that, I did all that. And then when we separated and I came away, then of course I sat in Jalandhar as deputy commissioner. I was going somewhere on some other posting. And I quickly hammered out what I called Himalayan Wonderland Travels in Lahaul city.
You have to be reading in Kerala, the long winter, reading books.
I had carried books, whatever I could, but how many can you carry? So there was a limit, and I found it. Then I would borrow from each of them, because I need a lot of reading. You see, even today, when I come to Bombay or anywhere, I will have a book in my hand. I might often leave my pajamas behind in my bag, but books I must have. On a bus, on a train, on a plane. and by my bed. If I go to a party late night, might have drunk also one or two or three, like last night. But when I come home, I have to read half an hour of a book. So that has uh, taken me to all this. So therefore, then I stayed with it. In the meanwhile, all my friends, Aluwalia and others, they went and climbed Everest 65. What did I do? I was Deputy Commissioner Ambana. I invited Bul Kumar, Alu, and whoever else I could catch hold of. Chima, actually the first authentic Indian climber of Everest. He is dead now. In my eyes, he is the first authentic because Tenzing and Gombu are really from another place. They are very much Indian. They are greater than me, or that's not the argument. But a plains Indian from this or that village in Karnataka or happened to be Punjab, and he, Chima happened to be from Ganganagar, Rajasthan, six settlers. He was the one, after all, in that first group. Anyway, so I invited them to Ambala. I gave them great receptions in Chandigarh, Ambala. I would do that. And then I linked very closely. Himalayan Club, I became the member. I would get every journal. I still have all my 30, 40, 50 journals and read every page, every word, because it's the greatest journal, greatest adventure book that I know, given every year. And I read each article, as you know. And then I linked very closely. I set up in Punjab, Punjab Mountaineering Foundation. You have the IMF. I set it up, and it is still there. And then I got hold of some of these Everest people, and I gave them help as a government man from the sports department, this, that, and the other. Incidentally, I'm the first director sports in India and in Punjab. Again, a Cairo idea. The first job he gave me was director sports. Balbir Singh, this great hockey chap, next only to the Anchand, who's there, 80-year-old today, 3, 4 gold medals, successive Olympics. He was one of my deputy directors. He recruited all these Milkha Singh and others. And we set up the Western Himalayan Mountaineering Institute, which is now Himachal Institute with a very long name. Huh? But we set it up. And I was going to set it up, and Fletcher, ICS from Jabalpur, Kerala, was my boss. He wanted to set it up in Nagar Castles, historic building. So he designed everything for every room and everything, and I used to go with him. But sadly, Harnam, who trained with me in Darjeeling, he was a lecturer in botany in Chandigarh College. His mother-in-law, Sarla Sharma, was Pradesh Congress president in Kangra. And he thought that's too small a village, Nagar. He wanted to be in Manali, which was tiny. Now it's ruined. I don't like to go to Manali. It's tiny. But he thought Manali at least is a city for a hillman. And so we put it where it is. We first put it in Vishisht, hot springs in a kothi hired. And for some time in a bazaar kothi in Manali. Later you will see it on that side. We set it up. And today everybody in India has a director sports. But Cairo is the founder of that idea.
Which year?
Again, it must be 1960, I think, 59, 60.
So you are still to go to.
Or 61. Yeah, I went to Kelong in 62. I think I was director sports maybe in 61. I'm going by rough ideas. But it was the first time it was created. And then,
Along. So that time, any effect of this Chinese war?
yes, I was there at the Chinese war. In fact, I have one brother who retired a general, no longer living. And I have one sister. She is the youngest. And she was getting married that Chinese time. In Jalandhar, my father, colonel, was posted there. And I had come for the wedding. And this is the code of then. And suddenly they said there is tension and things might go out of control. And the chief secretary rang me. And I immediately left the wedding and went and walked back over the Rohtang and got into my district. And my father said, you better go. And so I was there. I was there at the time of the Chinese war. And I know every inch of the border, where what is what, which village is this way and which village is that way. I went to Korek border. The first Jate, I went for a tour to Spiti. I said, I must see the area. Before the winter sets in, then it will be next year. Because we worked by summers.
So you reached Lahaul by, say, August?
August, I think. And immediately, within 2-3 weeks, I left for a quick tour of Spiti. And in those days, the jeep track took me just over the Kunzam. And then I had to walk down to Loser to Kaza all the way. And Kaza was absolutely primitive. And then I walked 56 miles, 80 kilometers or whatever it might be, me and Sibbal SDM, to Korik, which is our border post up above Sumdo and all that on the Tibetan side. 56 miles we walked, all at 11,000 and beyond. And then, no, all walking in the dusty, hot lane, because 11,000 dusty is mighty unpleasant. And then I was in a hurry to come back, and I was lucky I thought of that. From Korik, Sibbal and I left. I said, I want to get back to Kelen. And can you imagine, we left there early morning. We walked all day and slept at 10 o'clock or something in Nari village. In some Sarpanch's house, just fell somewhere. That was the life we led. And we never worried about it, that I am deputy commissioner. Lived with the people. And next morning, walked till 10 or 11 at night. 11, I staggered into Kaza. So in other words, one night on the way only. And we did this 60 miles from Korik to Kaza. But we were mighty fit. But it was still a plod with willpower from the moonlight finally till we struggled into Kaza.
So how were things at Kaulik during this?
We used to have nothing. There was nothing there because the Chinese did not have anything to do in this side in that 62 war. It was all in the east and it was all in Ladakh. So in our sector there was nothing. And we had a Punjab armed police force only. And they also were not, nobody was nearby on the other side. But I was very lucky. The next day I rushed to Kunzam and I crossed the pass. So I was on the Lahaul side and got back into Kelen. And next day, 18th September, heavy snowfall started. One of those freak ones on the Rohtang. And Kunzam and Rohtang got cut. I would have been cut off. I would have had to go to Simla, walk back, somehow climb over the Rohtang with all that snow and get back. That used to be the life. That used to be the life. But I then kept all my link with mountaineering. And I promoted it in Punjab through this foundation. I would send regular expeditions, the real training of Punjab schoolboys, 10 and 15 and all that, to Kullu area, Deotiba, anything, and I would support them with funds and government help and all that. And I kept total touch with IMF, total touch with all the mountaineers. When Alu got in 65, Aluwalia also got injured. Then all through in those years, I would go and see him, whether he was in the Naval Hospital in Bombay or here or not India. He was in the fighting, and he was at Gulmarg, I think, somewhere. And one of those tragedies on the last day before the ceasefire, he took a bullet in the neck up there on some ridge, some height, and that cut off his nervous system and paralyzed him. And he went through hell. And I visited him in Stoke Mandeville Hospital in England. I happened to be there, I would go, because I wanted to keep very much touch with him. And I wrote a big article on him later, Higher Than Everest. And I explained, I said, climbing Everest or this or that high mountain is one achievement. Lots of us can do it, given the right time and the right effort. But fighting this
was your term.
It is my term.
Using it.
He may be using it.
And it has become very famous.
He may be using it, but I think I'm right in saying it's my term in a long article I wrote on him. Because I said, climbing this mountain of such a disaster, knowing that all my life I am damaged in such an impossible way, and yet I can't die also. I might have wanted to die and be done with it. And that is where I admire Ahluwalia as what he has achieved in life. I could not have done it, Frank. I think very few men would have. He took it as a challenge. He carried it on as something which is an advantage. I will get over it. He's built this huge spinal hospital as a memorial. We didn't have any in India or in Delhi. And all through, he promoted the Delhi Mountaineering Foundation. It still runs due to him. The great work he did in IMF last 4 years, I know. And he's written books. And he behaves as if there is no handicap. He was there yesterday at my book launch. I mean, I think it is my term for him. Because as a writer, I thought of this. It is higher than Everest. I said, to climb the inside of your weakness, what God has done to you is not easy, my friend. That very few people can do. Physically trudge up this or that ridge, if you have the technical knowledge and the weather is right, and you do it. But that's not the same as this. When everything has been smashed for you, he was just about to get married. And he and Boli, I got them married here in Delhi, civil marriage, because parents and all that, her parents perhaps were not that happy. And Alu came to me, and I was here in the government of India, and I arranged that civil marriage and a lifetime. But yes, I admire that, and I do believe that is higher than Everest, because you see, you are a mountaineer, you know this, that mountaineering is all about challenging yourself, your own spirit, and see how much I can measure, how much pain I can take, how much struggle I can take up the hill, how much danger I can take, how much unselfishness I can produce. When you are with everybody, a team, and you want the most of it, or you want to survive, or you want to be put in the lead team and put your foot and become glorious. Everybody didn't become Hillary, but plenty of others did, isn't it? So
Did your mountaineering or other friends visited you with Carol?
yes. Well, not many, because I was there, but a few did in the short time I was there. Actually, the amazing thing is that I didn't have a long 3-year tenure there, because circumstances took me away. My mother took greatly ill. So all that I planned to do in Lahaul, I never managed to do. Except,
But you were going around to different villages.
yeah, I quickly did all that. And then subsequently, I've gone on doing all this, which nobody will do.
When did you return to Lahaul after your first
Oh, no. From Ambala, I went to Jalandhar and became DC Jalandhar when Haryana and Punjab and Himachal were split. So 66, 67, I was DC Jalandhar. And 67, suddenly I was chosen by government to go to Cambridge. So I was going, and we were married, and I had my first child, a little daughter, just in a year or hardly anything. And I told my wife, I said, let's go to Lahaul. And we left the child with her parents in Simla, and we went to Lahaul, both of us. That is the first time. Straight away we went. 67. Then I went in 80. I kept going, and I've been 2 years ago. We all went, even the granddaughter stayed in Kelang. So I somehow never lost that. And then the amazing thing, what I said yesterday, that I have remained Deputy Commissioner of Lahaul Spiti in the spirit. And that's why Lahaul people and Himachal people know me. Because the moment I got a position, I would help them. I became petrochemical secretary under Rajiv Gandhi, 1988-89. I called the ONGC chairman, Subramaniam. He had served with me in IPCL Baroda. I said, Subramaniam, everybody is getting this bloody cooking gas cylinders. It was such a rare thing to get one. I said, these people are also Indians, and you got to carry it there. I don't care. You carry it on a camel or a mule or on your bloody head. He did. I gave them. I said, there is no wood there. Then when I became agriculture secretary, straight away I looked for the Lahaul Kut Growers Society cooperative. It's a great flourishing potato and this and that. And that's all our introduction and development. They're rich people now on seed potato. And it's all our giving from the old Punjab. That's why they remember us. They remember Cairo. And I immediately helped that Kut society with lots of money.
So while you were there, you roamed around the villages, made friends.
I would always go and stay in villages, live with them, go to their houses and enjoy.
You're also the same friend.
Same thing with my family, go to the monastery. Like Lama Paljor is 92 and living like Khushwant Singh of Shashur Monastery. And I'm in touch with them. And now that we have STD today in this age, I ring up the Deputy Commissioner of Lahaul Spiti every day. Oh, I sent you that 5 lakhs for skiing. Have you taken it? Have you bought the equipment? Have you done it properly? I supervise these fellows. Well, I sent the grant and it didn't reach them. I checked with him. He said, sir, it hasn't come. I rang up the Chief Minister, Mr. Dhumal. I said, Mr. Dhumal, and he was student when I was DC Jalandhar. Yeah, we are all one Punjab. Now we may be 3. And I said, my money is not gone. And I've checked that there is some corruption in the department in Simla. They are holding on in order to get a little bakshish.
Wait.
He kicked them. The money went. Now, what else am I except the Deputy Commissioner of Lahaul Spiti, and I will remain to the last day. If they have any problem, any of them, boys, girls, long years in Chandigarh, I used to be godfather for all Lahaul Spiti students studying in Chandigarh. That has been my attitude and my fun. It has given me enrichment and my family that we are with them very much. So it's that kind of a touch we got, which we have enjoyed also.
First time you stayed for 1.5 years
Yeah, about that maybe.
in that time.
Huh.
It was the second time. Did you go to Spiti ever? Oh, no.
Spiti I haven't been because Lahaul, from Kelang I go and you need more time to go there. I intend to do so now. You see, I have a regret that as Chief Election Commissioner I never went. Not for my glory, but they'll say अपना आदमी आ गया, ये अपना गिल साहब है, Chief Election Commissioner साले हिंदुस्तान को डराता है. And I could have gone, but somehow busy, and it didn't happen. Now I am determined as minister to go there because they'll say अपना मंत्री है. It's just the fun between us. Yeah, that's all. There's no ego in it. So because I have a family warmth with people there, and they remember me for that reason. And of course, in my work, mountaineering, to go back to that. Now, I became IMF president.
And just now, let's say, do Lahaul first. Then we come to administrative of mountains.
Okay.
So Lahaul, but then what else interested you? Mountains?
You see, it's
Together on this legendary story which you narrated.
No, because Shering Dorje, as I said, he's a unique Renaissance man. As a young man, he trained in a Tibetan monastery. He told me then, and he keeps asserting to me, even now I keep asking. He says, sir, I have seen levitation, you know that. With the tapasya sitting in samadhi, and you raise the body. Now, against gravity, it is impossible. No trick to it. And that remains a question in Western minds. Can they do it or do they only talk? And he said, I've seen it. Then he left that, came back, got married, became a householder. His village and land is, next to Kelang.
When?
Therefore, he has deep knowledge of monasteries, of lamas, of culture, of religion. So I would pick his brain, then I would talk to others, I would meet them, and I would go on making notes. I was a bachelor sitting there, and we didn't have files to do. We only had wireless contact with Chandigarh even in the summer. So I was king of all I surveyed. That's why I have written in the book, for once my pleasure became my duty. All of us have jobs in life, they are only jobs to earn something. But your pleasure becoming your job is impossible. In my case, it did. That was what I wanted to do, and Mangatrai said, yes, go. And I was king of 5,000 square miles of glaciers, 20,000 people, climbing 16, 17,000 to meet one man. And what else do you want as a mountaineer? Wouldn't you have liked to have my job? Don't you feel jealous? I bet you do. And I had even a mule in those early days because there were no roads. And it had the finest Tibetan rugs to put on it. And it had that colored heckle of feathers. And I used to joke with them, put the DC's flag on the heckle so I can go around up and down the valley. And so it was such...
People that time, they must be very different. Was they educated? How they were?
You see, it's a Tibetan culture. Actually, Lahaul Valley, Spiti is totally Tibetan. Lahaul, the upper valley, Kelang and north is Tibetan. As you go lower down, there is a mixture of Hinduism because Kullu Rajas used to control Lahaul. They were Rajas of that. And a lot of my stories are about Rajas and sacrifice of young virgins and this and that, So it's a mixture. The lower valley is more Hindu culture towards Udaipur and going down towards Kishtwar and down into Chenab River down to Jammu. And the upper is that. And they had total that. They still have it. But of course, now that we opened up, as I've written in my book, and then also, we worked very hard for little irrigation from glaciers, bringing cools, as we call them, little water channels cut into the ridges, escarpments. Very dangerous. I walked over them, crawled over them a few times. And looking sideways, I couldn't look But I always had this arrogance that if they can do it, why can't I do it? So we did it. And then education.
Except for education.
Very simple. And education. We opened a lot of schools. That's what Carol did.
Like your 60s.
Yes, yes. Every village we had a school, and I would go and visit them. I visited Gyu village. You were talking of it, and I have pictures in my book of the school children in 1960 and Gyu village 61. Whenever I went there, and from there I climbed. You see, I went up the valley, went to Gyu, the remotest village on the Tibet frontier, and then I went up to Korak by a high ridge. So, education, health, and roads. But today it's different. All they had polyandry. You know, one girl, three husbands, marry one, and you marry the family. And at that time they had it, and I've recorded a lot of that. Now, with you see a dominant culture from the plains coming into the valley. They're all wearing jeans and lots of music, and now TV is gone, which was well. So it's a different changed world. And then we've got this road to Leh. So in a way, my Kalen is ruined because even the Rohtang, they've cut a 30-kilometer, winding road for, heavy trucks, and now they're making a tunnel.
That's a good term you use, my Kelong.
My Kelang is ruined. Yeah, that is so. And the road passes through Kelang. So daily dust in the summer, trucks and convoys of ration going. I mean, it's not that quiet tunnel. In the winter, it is, I suppose. Then it's shut. Now they're trying that even in the winter because the heavy snow is only on this ridge. As you go inner, Ladakh and all, there's no snow. So once they cut the Rohtang tunnel and you get in the valley, you can carry on, I suppose, all the year round sending stuff, and that will ruin Kelang even more. So I have to go, and now when I go, I've got to cross towards Karding and go to the other side of the valley where I can be in a quiet Lahaul village. So life is changed. And same in Spiti. The pictures you see in my book, those are all of 1961. Those families, I think, don't exist today because they're all wearing jeans and you've been there so much. But life has changed. Civilization brings some benefits, but takes away some culture. Can I say that? Takes away some culture, some past, some.
How do you look at that? Part of the.
I think you see, Nehru had this great argument. The policy for tribals. When I was being trained, Nehru's friend was Verrier Elvin from Oxford. He married a tribal in Jharkhand. And he died here. And Nehru's policy was with Verrier Elvin. And they wanted to, preserve their cultures. So they tried to prevent too much intrusion of all the good and bad of civilization from the plains. Today, that really is not so. And therefore, it's much more extensive. It gives development, it gives jobs, it gives you economic well-being, which also is necessary. But something changes or something is lost, I suppose, in human affairs. You can't help it if it's going to happen. But of course, people like me would have nostalgia and a little bit of sadness. Now, for example, they find it difficult to get lamas into the monasteries. So the same is happening with religion here in the plains. A lot of people in the West now, they cannot get anybody into Christianity and no priesthood. So even the Pope is soon going to have all Keralite Christians. And I'm looking forward to a Kerala Pope. I really am. I believe the next Pope will be either a Kerala or an African. Because again, in backward Africa, there's a lot of Christianity or whatever kind. And today, Christianity in the West is fading from the white man. And so, why not a Pope from South Africa? Or I think let's have one from Kerala.